Can you imagine Alexander Lukashenko strutting through his lavish palace in Minsk, waltz tunes playing as he dreams of ruling into 2026? But what if Vladimir Putin has already penned his tragic end, turning Belarus into a pawn in a deadly game? This chilling setup unfolds with Putin's silent maneuvers, where innocent rooftops become bunkers of war. The stench of burning marshes fills the air, and the low hum of drones echoes like distant thunder. Why does this doom hover, you wonder? Because Kremlin generals transformed Belarusian civilians into gigantic shields on December 25 and 26. Apartment rooftops in Minsk morphed into electronic warfare hubs. That same night, brutal strikes hit Volyn and Rivne regions with unmanned aerial vehicles flying from Belarus and Russian skies. Reports even spotted those UAVs aimed at Kovali station on the Lviv railway. The Belarus-Ukraine-Russia tangle spirals toward chaos, but Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky strikes a resolute pose, inspiring defiance. He vows protection unwaveringly. We guard our existences and our offsprings. We do not back away, ever. This shreds any illusion of proxy warfare. Russia openly commandeers Belarus. Putin's lust for dominance sharpens, yet Lukashenko's carefree jigging seems foolhardy, sirens wailing for peril ahead. Ukrainian retaliation brews swiftly. Zelensky's dire alert sparks dread. He states bluntly, they invade via Belarusian soil, in every spatial and technical sense. This demands action. I've tasked our forces, responses await our next high command meeting. From Kiev's view, conflict erupts not just at frontiers, but on Minsk's very avenues. Analysts foresee Ukraine amassing troops, armor, batteries, and swarms of soldiers, at the Belarusian edge. This vengeful surge, backed by Zelensky and experts, paints Belarus as a sacrificial lamb under Moscow's iron boot. Building on that eerie ballet of betrayal, where roofs hum with hidden threats and shields crumble under drone roars, will Zelensky's steel resolve crush the invader's gambit? The gamble reveals itself as no random detour. Moscow's frontline freezes force a savage adaptation, embedding electronic warfare into homes, a warped wartime strategy. Routes veer ominously over populated zones, the sensation of vibrations rippling through bones. Zelensky's disclosures brand this a deliberate crime, upscaled by unseen enemies. These aren't mere receivers atop towers. They pulse as active transmitters, shielding drone GPS and GLONSS from Ukrainian jams, or spewing static to muddle radars. Engineered atop Minsk's towering blocks, they snare Ukraine in a vicious dilemma, tolerate them and endure homeland bombings, or assault Belarus to stifle the signals. Putin evidently discards Belarus's fate. Ukrainian intel unwinds the scheme. Russian troops offset Volyn and Rivne defeats by claiming Belarusian airs as launch pads. Scars from Ukraine's lethal western defenses prompt a shift. Now, Shahid 136 and 131 kamikazes lift from southern Belarus marshes, shrouded by forests reeking of damp moss. The payoff? Presumably immense. Yet Belarus teeters on a razor's brink. When Zelensky swears non-silence to these onslaughts, echoes of doom resound for Minsk. Kiev might slash back at Belarusian arsenals and fuel veins. Foremost target looms large, Moser oil refinery, pulsing lifeblood for Belarus and Russian tanks, mere 40 kilometers from Ukraine. Strike its towering distillation units with nimble, long-range drones or Neptune variants, fumes of carnage would cripple Russian logistics, halting tank convoys to lifeless hulks. Jets morph to costly relics sans diesel. If Moser falters, a billions-dollar void swallows Belarus's economy, dragging Lukashenko to ruin's verge. The second volley could pummel Machalishi airbase south of Minsk, hub for Russian A-50 radar Leviathans and MiG-31K carriers armed with hypersonic Kinzhal darts. Experts posit Kiev's pinpoint knowledge. A drone horde could shatter Moscow's aerial dominance within heartbeats, blast shuddering Minsk civilians. This upends the illusion of eternal might. Amassing from those perilous shifts, as refineries tremble and airbases quake, what hidden vaults might Zelensky unearth to humble Lukashenko's crumbling throne? Critically poised is Belarus's energy lifeline, the colossal Yamal-Europe gas pipe and Druzhba oil conduit traversing its lands. These aren't simple arteries, they fund Lukashenko's grip via hefty transit tolls. Assault pumping or compressor hubs with mystery munitions could plunge Minsk into icy voids, darkness engulfing millions. Harm key spots like Minsk's No. 4 power plant might black out cities, halting lifts, pumps, life freezing in shocked stillness. Note Ukraine's prior Druzhba hits, 5 confirmed this year alone, as per Moscow Times on December 3, threats loom tangible. Ukraine's 1,000-kilometer range drones stretched to bombard Naftin refinery in northern Belarus. By tapping Minsk flats for cover, Lukashenko catapults his nation onto Kiev's vengeance list. Dawn's black vapors from Mosul refineries could end that waltz abruptly, skies choking on defeat. Thus Kiev sketches a bleak ruin map for paralysis. Lukashenko's denials fade amidst Putin's plots and Ukraine's counters, proof of warfare homing to Belarus. Yet this rooftop spree ignites no mere skirmish, it summons a seismic storm across realms. Echoing those ignited frontiers, where pipelines quiver and refineries fume, how will Europe's old anxieties reshape Lukashenko's crumbled dancehall into a fortress of fear? Minsk's rebirth as Russia's outpost redraws Eastern Europe's fate, reviving Baltic to Black Sea dreads of past unions. Occident awakens to truth, Belarus dissolves as sovereign, becoming Russia's appendage, counterable solely through combat might. Poland's wariness peaks, marshalling 40,000 near Kaliningrad and Belarus frontiers. Not for migrants, but forging iron barriers against potential Suwalki corridor rushes through Belarus. Concurrently, Poland erects new fortifications by Kaliningrad as part of the Eastern Shield endeavor. Satellite glimpses from November 24 by independent sleuth Klimal Mulan unveil anti-tank ditches, dragon's teeth barricades, and trenches emerging. Baltic echoes follow sharply, Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia call for the Baltic defense line along Russian-Belarusian edges. Temporary anti-tank walls rise in Lithuania, Latvia and Estonia linger in blueprints. This transcends walls. Fusing concrete fangs with drone drills and sensors for surveillance versus. In sundry stretches, fortifications burgeon militarily, hardening against oncoming tides. Following recent developments, Ukraine is preparing for a major military buildup along the Belarusian border. Analysts warn this could be a turning point, an aggressive move orchestrated by Zelensky amidst mounting tensions. The question is, what's truly at stake? Could Belarus become the next frontline? Sources reveal that Ukrainian forces are deploying advanced defense systems, artillery, and tens of thousands of troops toward the frontier. This strategic shift signals a potential confrontation, transforming borders into battlegrounds. The stakes are enormous. If Ukraine acts on these signs, Minsk might face devastating attacks. Imagine the silent hum of drones overhead, ruthless eyes scanning rooftops, cloaked in dense forests. When Minsk's chandeliers go dark, will Belarus stand alone against missile strikes? This is no coincidence. It's Moscow's brutal game, an engineered trap that plays out over civilian homes. Now, the terrifying part. Moscow engineers have covertly installed active electronic warfare devices on tall apartment buildings in Minsk. These aren't simple antennas, they're weapons disguised as civilian infrastructure. They relay signals against Ukrainian GPS and GLONASS systems, creating noise that blinds radars and jams drone navigation. The goal? Trap Ukraine into a nightmare scenario, either let these devices run and watch their cities get hit, or target Belarus and silence them altogether. But does Putin truly care about Belarus? Evidence suggests otherwise. Ukrainian intelligence indicates Moscow is using Belarus as a strategic corridor, not a partner. Russian forces are trying to turn Belarusian airspace into a safe route for deadly strikes, bypassing frontline defenses. They've learned how deadly Ukraine's Western Air Force is. As the Russian army struggles on the ground, they're increasingly relying on covert operations, launching drones and missiles from Belarus's dense forests and marshlands. The real horror? Russian-built stealth drones, like Shahid 136 and 131, are now being launched from Belarus's southern corridors. They fly low over trees and marshes, slipping past defenses aimed at Moscow. These devices target key infrastructure, bridges, oil refineries, power plants, aimed at crippling Ukraine's and Belarus's toughest defenses. The threat isn't just to Ukraine. It's a deadly game of exposure, with Belarus caught in the crossfire. In the shadows of Minsk, the ground trembles beneath the weight of this strategy. When the fires ignite at the Moser oil refinery, just 40 kilometers from Ukraine, that could mean the beginning of a new, devastating chapter. If Ukraine retaliates, targeting operations like the Mochalisky airbase, home to Russia's surveillance aircraft and hypersonic missiles, Belarus could become a battlefield. A single strike could shatter illusions of invincibility and shroud Minsk in chaos. And yet the true nightmare lies in Belarus's energy arteries, the Yamal-Europe pipeline and the Druzhba pipeline. These aren't just fuel lines, they're lifelines for the regime surviving on transit revenue. Attacking these could plunge Belarus into darkness, no power, no heat, paralyzing lives and crippling factories. With the power grid collapsing, Minsk's modern life could come to a halt overnight. Ukrainian strikes already targeted the Druzhba pipeline 5 times this year, a clear message that nothing is off-limits. If these deadly game-changers fall, like the Moser refinery or the strategic military bases, the entire region risks spiraling into chaos. Why? Because Belarus isn't just a pawn anymore, it's a battlefield, a strategic chess piece cloaked in civilian cover. Now, the bigger picture takes shape. Minsk's transformation into a Russian military outpost redraws the entire map of Eastern Europe. The Kremlin's influence in Belarus has resurrected fears of a unified front from the Baltic to the Black Sea. NATO forces are mobilizing, Poland deploying 40,000 troops near Kaliningrad and Belarus, fortifying borders with anti-tank barriers and early warning systems. Satellite images show trucks, trenches, and fortifications sprouting along the borders, preparing for the unthinkable. The wave of defenses extends through the Baltics, Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, constructing formidable lines of defense with anti-tank obstacles, radar systems, and drone detection tools. The threat is clear, Moscow's strategy is to encircle and control. But what if Minsk itself becomes a battlefield? The entire region watches as tensions escalate, every sound, every movement, anticipating the moment when the calm shatters into chaos. The question remains, how long can this fragile balance hold? Will the shadow of conflict engulf Minsk? Or can diplomacy hold, amid the silent threat of war emanating from rooftops and pipelines? The coming days may reveal a new chapter, one where the line between civilian life and battlefield blurs beyond recognition. Recent military intelligence reports reveal that the Russian force is actively working to establish a secure corridor through Belarusian airspace, compensating for failures on the Koval and Volyn fronts. They have learned the hard way how lethal Ukraine's western air defenses are. Now, they're deploying kamikaze drones and missiles, not directly from Russian territory, but from the southern areas of Belarus, hidden among marshes and dense forests, seeking safety for their flight paths. This strategic move risks sparking disaster in Belarus. Zelensky's warning echoes loudly, Ukraine will not remain silent as these attacks escalate. The possibility that Kyiv might strike Belarusian military and energy sites grows more real each day. Their most tempting target? The Moser oil refinery, believed to be the economic heart of Belarus and crucial to the Russian war effort. Just 40 kilometers from the Ukrainian border, this giant facility supplies diesel for Russian tanks and jets. Imagine the chaos if Ukrainian long-range drones or modified Neptune missiles hit this target. The refinery's burning towers would not only create hellish fires but could cripple Russia's logistical backbone. Without fuel, tanks rust into useless hulks, and jets become expensive toys lost in a puff of smoke. An assault here could financially devastate Belarus, pushing President Lukashenko near collapse as billions in annual revenue vanish into the flames. But the danger does not stop there. Kyiv's plans might extend to the Mochalisky airbase south of Minsk, home to Russia's A-50 early warning aircraft and MiG-31K jets armed with hypersonic Kinshaw missiles. Military experts suggest Ukrainian forces could pinpoint this military hub with razor-sharp accuracy. A swarm of drones attacking this location could eradicate Russia's aerial advantage over Belarus in moments, an unstoppable blow that could shatter the Kremlin's control. Yet, behind these strikes lies a darker threat. The real nightmare scenario involves targeting Belarus's vital energy arteries, the Yamal-Europe natural gas pipeline and the Druzhba oil pipeline. Both pipelines traverse Belarus, carrying not only fuel but the lifeblood of the regime's stability, transit fees that keep Lukashenko afloat. Attack these arteries, and the entire nation risks falling into darkness and freezing cold. Exploding pumping stations or compressor centers could cut off Belarus's power supply, plunging Minsk into chaos, elevators stalled, water scarce, life grinding to a halt. Every strike on Minsk's power plants and pipelines would be a devastating blow, similar to the Ukrainian strikes this year on the Druzhba pipeline, 5 times, according to intelligence reports. The risk is real, and Ukraine's long-range drones now threaten to turn Belarus into a battleground. But what if Belarus itself becomes a battlefield? When smoke billows over the Mosul refinery or the skies over Minsk darken with enemy fire, the illusion of Belarus as an independent state crumbles. Global powers watch anxiously. The transformation of Minsk from a quiet capital into a key military target signals a shift in Eastern Europe's balance of power. As Poland and neighboring countries rush to fortify borders, raising anti-tank barriers and constructing layered defenses, the region teeters on the edge of chaos. Will this fragile peace shatter completely? Could the next move trigger a broader confrontation? The clock ticks as the air thickens with tension. A single spark, an unexpected missile, a fierce drone attack, could ignite a chain reaction. With every passing day, the threat of war spreading from the rooftops of Minsk to the heart of Europe grows more imminent. The question remains, who will blink first in this deadly game of strategic chess? Recent sabotage efforts have revealed a shocking truth: Belarus is no longer just a neutral nation. Its military installations, even those nestled within civilian neighborhoods, threaten to destabilize the entire region. Imagine the shockwaves if a decisive strike hits these bases. Disaster could unfold in the blink of an eye, shattering Belarus's facade of stability. The most vulnerable point isn't just military equipment. It's Belarus's energy backbone, the pipelines and power plants that keep the country running. Among them, the Yamal-Europe natural gas pipeline and the historic Druzhba oil pipeline stand out. These aren't merely transportation routes for fuel, they're lifelines. They connect Belarus to its economic soul, funneling transit fees that sustain Lukashenko's regime. If unknown drones targeting the pumping stations or compressor centers hit these pipelines, darkness and cold could descend on Belarus overnight. The damage wouldn't just cut off energy supplies. It could trigger chaos in Minsk. Power outages could disable elevators, shut down water pumps, and halt public transportation. With a population of 2 million, the city would grind to a halt. The Ukrainian military has already struck this vital pipeline 5 times this year, a fact confirmed by reputable sources. That means the threat isn't hypothetical, it's very real. Even the Naftan refinery in northern Belarus is within reach of Ukraine's long-range drones, adding fuel to the fire. Lukashenko's decision to conceal Putin's drones within civilian buildings might actually turn his entire country into a target. When black smoke billows from the Mosul refinery, heavy enough to obscure the Minsk skies, the song of peace and normalcy may be permanently silenced. The map of Ukraine's potential targets is darker and more destructive than anyone expected, aimed directly at crippling Minsk's key assets. Belarus's leadership denies these threats, insisting they are safe. But behind closed doors, plans are being laid. As the strategic options unfold, the question remains: how long can Belarus remain under the shadow of this impending storm? The timing is deadly, each missed moment could bring catastrophe. The relentless push toward the critical infrastructure shows that the war is no longer distant, it is firmly rooted deep in Belarus's heart. Belarus is no longer a sovereign nation, it's becoming an extension of Russia's military machine. The quiet transformation of Minsk into a Russian garrison has rewritten the entire geopolitical map of Eastern Europe. This shift revives fears long buried, those threatening to plunge the Baltics and Black Sea regions into chaos. The West recognizes the danger. Belarus has surrendered its independence. Now, military preparations are escalating rapidly. Poland, acting swiftly, has deployed 40,000 troops near the Kaliningrad and Belarus borders. These forces aren't merely massing to control refugee flows. They're constructing a formidable steel barrier, designed to block any Russian attempt to seize the Suwalki corridor, one of Europe's most strategic transit routes. Any attack through this gap could unravel entire alliances, leaving NATO vulnerable. Meanwhile, Poland is building a fortified line along Kaliningrad itself, part of the regional security initiative called the Eastern Shield. Satellite imagery from late November reveals the early stages: rows of anti-tank trenches, intimidating dragon's teeth barriers, and complex trench systems spread across the border. Across the Baltic, similar efforts are underway. Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia are racing to fortify their frontiers. Short sections of anti-tank barriers already stand in Lithuania, but much remains in planning. Latvia and Finland are preparing, quietly setting the stage for possible confrontation. This is no ordinary border security. It's a layered defense designed to withstand an invasion. A modern fortress rising in a region historically scarred by conflict. As the buffer zone tightens, the stakes skyrocket. What happens if these barriers are breached? Could Europe's fragile peace shatter overnight? The very ground beneath these regions is trembling with anticipation. Each new barrier, each military drill, echoes with a haunting question: is Europe ready for the chaos that's looming on the horizon? The narrative of peace hangs by a fragile thread, and the clock's ticking toward a possible storm no one truly wants to face. The construction of a sprawling defense line along Europe's eastern borders is redefining the balance of power. It's not just a wall of concrete barriers and anti-tank trenches. Hidden within are advanced tools, electronic sensors, drone training systems, and reconnaissance detection devices, all designed to monitor and control movement. Military-grade structures, barricades to block migration, and fortified checkpoints now line the borders of Latvia, Finland, and beyond. This vast network signals more than just border security. It reveals a strategic alliance involving around 30 European nations. Together, they forcefully prepare for imminent threats, ready to act swiftly. These measures aren't random, they're calculated responses to tightening control from Moscow, which has manipulated Belarus into a strategic trap. Imagine the tension crackling in the air, metal clanking, whispers of electronic surveillance, the scent of damp earth after recent rains. Behind these defenses, provocative questions echo: how long can Lukashenko hold his independence? Will he remain a free actor or a pawn? But there's hope. Across the continent, thousands gather in Warsaw, their voices rising in unity. On November 11, 2025, a procession marches through the streets, banners chanting, "Only unity can stop the empire." This isn't just a rally, it's a warning. The West sees the danger too. The picture becomes clearer: Putin's game has placed Belarus in a fiery trap. Meanwhile, across the Atlantic, the stakes grow even higher. In a high-stakes meeting at Mar-a-Lago, Ukrainian President Zelensky faces the most critical moment yet. With fresh successes and mounting threats from Belarus, he holds a potential game-changer in the form of a peace plan, already 90% complete. The question is, can he persuade the decision-makers before time runs out? The storm is brewing. Alliances are shifting. The coming days could decide the fate of an entire region, and the world watches, waiting for the next move. Following recent developments, the stakes in Belarus are skyrocketing. If Ukraine and its allies succeed in persuading major powers to demand Russian troop withdrawals from Belarus, President Lukashenko's grip on power could vanish overnight. No longer a key player, he might become merely a pawn in negotiations between Washington and Kiev. But inside Belarus, chaos is brewing beneath the surface. The country is crumbling from within as the geopolitical siege tightens. The illusion of stability is shattering. The military siege, combined with economic strangulation, has drained the lifeblood from Belarus's economy. Once confident, proud even, Lukashenko's boasts about $1 billion GDP now seem like hollow words. Inflation is spiraling out of control, wiping out citizens' savings. The middle class is unrest, anxieties boiling over as factories grind to a halt. Industry now largely serves Russia's military machine, not the people's needs. The dream of a thriving economy is nothing but a distant memory. One emblem of Belarus's decline is the electric car project. Once seen as a symbol of innovation, it now exemplifies the country's downfall. Sanctions and technology blockades have frozen development to mere assembly of Chinese parts. Modern manufacturing has become impossible. The country's borders, once gateways for trade and ideas, are now sealed tight by neighboring nations, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Poland. They have shut down all crossings, cutting off trade and refugees alike. This lockdown has choked Belarus's last hopes of growth. As borders vanish into an unpassable barrier, the country's last lifelines are severed. International trade, vital supplies, and foreign investments are disappearing. The economic veins have been blocked. Meanwhile, the sounds of prosperity, trade, innovation, progress, fade into a hollow silence. The nation is trapped in a downward spiral, with no sign of rescue. The question remains, how much longer can Lukashenko hold on before his country joins the ranks of failed states? The answer might be written in the dark clouds gathering over Minsk. Belarus, once a vital logistics hub, has rapidly transformed into a fortified prison. The national atmosphere is heavy with despair and tension. Inside the country, the economic front is crumbling. Workers are restless, unpaid wages left unfulfilled. Factories that once thrived are now merely tools for military support, functioning as appendages to Russia's war effort. The promises of creating a thriving industrial base have long since vanished, replaced by the bleak reality of being a dumping ground for Russian needs. This economic stagnation fuels a silent but growing anger among the people. Rumors of unrest ripple through Minsk streets like whispering winds of change. Fear and frustration are filling the air, residents sense that the future is slipping away. Mistrust clouds their minds. Every rooftop antenna, every piece of electronic warfare equipment, now carries a darker purpose, potential targets in this unfolding nightmare. The entire nation seems to be caught in a trap, manipulated and held hostage by external forces. The psychological toll is immense. People feel trapped, uncertain where to turn. The once vibrant city now whispers of impending chaos, echoing the tremors of a nation on the brink. Zelensky's warning is clear: Ukraine will not stand idly by while threats originate from Belarusian territory. The question remains, should Ukraine mobilize its forces immediately, as Zelensky suggests? Or continue diplomatic negotiations, knowing they may be a trap designed to serve Putin's hidden agendas? As the cold wind sweeps through Minsk, the ominous sounds of an approaching storm grow louder. Every building, every rooftop is potentially a battlefield. The risk of escalation is rising fast. What is the next move? Will diplomacy hold, or will the flames of conflict engulf Belarus? The answers lie in the unfolding shadows of this fragile geopolitical landscape. The clock is ticking, the world watches, waiting for the next move in this deadly game.